Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing and first look at the iRobot Braava Jet M6. Now, this is a fresh release, in fact, a much needed redesign, rebuild of iRobot's MopBot line. I have used previous gen models, and they're better than nothing, but far from being something that I can necessarily recommend to everyone who's looking for a robotic mop. Now, at $500, people will expect this to vacuum, and I understand it doesn't. It will dust, however, which is a nice touch, but that's also something that previous generations could do. So without further ado, let's get right into the box and take a look. I did already break the seal, but that was just for convenience purposes. Haven't actually looked at it, just arrived. And this launched, I believe, at the beginning of June. So still fairly new, and really, there are tests out there. But what I really liked about this, what attracted me to this product, right now I do, as I said, have previous generation mop bots. By the way, you can see it does include solution as well as 4 cleaning pads. But the problem with those solutions in terms of the mop bots was battery life and their inability to dock. As you can see out of the box right here, this has a dock. This will self-dock, resume cleaning, which may sound like a simple, insignificant thing, but when you're accustomed to robotic vacuums, always self-docking, and if they have a mapping feature, continuing to clean and finish the job, now we have that in the form of a robotic mop, which is really significant. Also, this is the reservoir tank right here, which I cannot tell you, well, literally can't tell you how much larger it is than what I have on the previous gen top of the line Braava Jet, but it's physically just based on an eyeball. This is actually a reservoir tank. The other thing is more like, it's just 2 lines that are literally like 1 inch by 1 inch in terms of, well, not 1 inch by 1 inch, I'm talking about in terms of how wide it is. It's about 1 inch wide, and I think it's about 7 inches, somewhere around that long. And the pad size may be very similar, but the water reservoir is huge. So we've got battery life and the water reservoir, so that means your cleaning time is going to be much longer. And then a brain, something that the previous generation that I had did have somewhat of. Get rid of some of this on the bottom. But it just could not really be seamless, and that's what I'm hoping for out of this Braava Jet M6, is that if we do have a seamless experience, then this does make this a very unique product. So you've seen the reservoir, you see the giant clean button, you see the home button, as well as spot clean. What this essentially does is spray out of this nozzle. This is not a new design by any means. It sprays, I believe, obviously you can go with water. I think the solution they've included is not water, and this is going to be good for someone like me with a lot of hardwood floors. And then it does have a camera. So beyond just having detection of, hitting objects, it does have a camera for mapping, which means, unlike previous generations, you're not going to need to use the companion device to essentially map the ceiling for it. So that's big. Now, if I flip this over, you can see this is where you apply your pads, and it does have, they're calling it a sensor in order to actually detect whether or not you're going to be wet or dry mopping. Because remember, even though it's not a vacuum, it can still dry mop, it can still dust your floors. That's not an issue, but so could previous generations. But it's not really a sensor. It's just reading the pattern that the pads have that are included with the system, which you'll see in a moment. And they just, the whole pad just adheses here. It'll be interesting, again, really just to see how much better of a job this does than previous generations. In here, we have the charging dock. Go ahead and throw that aside. So essentially, this is how it gets home, recharges, finishes its job. And, I'm not one to ever run out and buy the most expensive robotic vacuum. I kind of hang out and wait and watch, because the reality is that they do keep putting out new models, whether they need new models or not. This is one category where, again, a new model has not been out for so long that the game really has changed with this. So you can see you actually have a landing pad, so that this way it doesn't actually make a mess when it lands, because the pad will still be wet if you're going to be mopping like I am, at least vicariously through the robot, right? And then we've got some paperwork. No surprise there. Safety guide. You see it spraying out of there. And they did have this design in a previous generation. The difference is polishing it, refining it, and finishing it, and giving it brains so that it actually can do a job that I think represents what iRobot has come to bear in the entire landscape of robotic cleaning. And a lot of people may say, how could you spend $500 on something like this? How could you even spend $200 on something like this? And the answer is really simple. I mean, do you clean your house? And that's an important question. And if you do, then you likely, and no one should take this as an insult, it's all about, how valuable your time is. If you have the ability to clean your house, and also if you have the physical ability to do it, then more power to you. It's, but the whole goal with the robot vacuum market has been to achieve upright performance in a robotic form factor. And they've been struggling, but it seems like we're finally turning that corner. We're getting there with the latest offerings from Roomba. And now, I mean, even if you go to old top-of-the-line Samsungs like the PowerBot 9350, very good vacuum. I have one of those. It's fantastic. So Shark products are good too. There are a lot of Chinese manufacturers that make solid products. But again, nothing for this sector of mopping. And if your time, like I was saying before, is more valuable, or you don't have the physical ability, this isn't going to replace you from necessarily hiring someone to do a deep clean of your home, but it's going to prolong the longevity of cleanliness in your home without question. And that, in my opinion, pays for itself considering what you're going to pay. So this is just to connect directly to the power base. Then we have, this is the wet mop right here, and that is the dry mop, so just for dusting. And what else do we have? The solution that they've included is, I don't know if it's a concentrate. I'm going to look in the paperwork to see, but they're just showing loaded up halfway, so I think it is a concentrate, and you're going to do half water, equal parts water, half and half. And that already is a step in the right direction, because the previous generations, you could only use water. I mean, there were products being sold on Amazon, but to my knowledge, none of them were actually legitimate. So that wasn't a great option in the situation. But just moving back to the bot itself, so remember, we have a more intelligent bot, finally a mop bot that's going to dock itself. It has the ability to sense objects. It has now, I don't know if it's just one camera or two. I'm not sure if there is anything. Oh yeah, we do have, excuse me, this isn't a camera. One camera here for mapping. This is, I believe, just another IR sensor. So it really does have the ability to see far more than any generation of MopBot. And then, of course, the spray nozzle. This is how you actually attach the different pads. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw on one of the wet ones. And you can see right there the coating that I was talking about earlier. It's not coating, but just actually creating a pattern so that the MopBot, the M6, will intelligently recognize what you're using. And there are actually arrows right here indicating to slide down. So I'm going to take that cue and just try to insert it here. If I can, let's see. Shouldn't be too complicated. It should just slide on. And then by sliding in, if I can get it, let's see. I'm going to have to adjust my angle here. And actually thread it in. Maybe it's that way. Excuse me, had it backwards. Not a big deal. So that piece of cardboard right there, it looks like we're in now. You can see it locked in. That piece of cardboard has told the MopBot, we're going wet, as bizarre as that sounds. So now, unlike previous generations where you'd have to designate wet versus dry, it's done just by whichever pad you actually attach. So I'm going to go charge this thing up, get it running, see what kind of job it does with, again, I have hardwood floors, so it's pretty much perfect, especially, if general cleaning, and there are spiders where I live, so I don't have to tell you, they like to leave little trails, little blessings. So it's going to be a really big help. And even though the previous gen mop bots worked, they just, even at their price, granted half the price of what this retails for, the convenience and overall performance upgrade here, I think, is tangible. And of course, if it's not, you're going to hear it from me in my follow-up video. And again, just on background, I have gone through so many different robot vacuums. I know I've never covered them on the channel. That's simply because I wasn't sure whether or not it was something that was going to be of interest for my daily subscribers. On the other hand, because I think this is a game changer, and it's not just about a vacuum that's increased its mapping capability or increased suction power, this I think actually is the first mop bot that maybe, at least on paper and from what I've seen, should have ever been released, and then this would have actually created a market, whereas the other ones have left so much to be desired that people are going to just look at this and say, 500? No way. Whereas I look at it and I finally see innovation and I say, that's how you get my money. But we're going to find out. It's only going to either deliver it or underdeliver. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.